Welcome back to the Kang Gang Pod. This is episode number 54. This is officially our second episode of the off season. We have not recorded an episode outside of the Mojos episode since the Kings had that terrible loss to the Dallas Mavericks. Since then, we fired Monty McNair and hired in 12 hours span Scott? Can we call him Scotty yet? No, Scott Perry. He's been a GM for, he's been in NBA circles for the past 25 years. And then he has his introductory press conference, and he's talking about how we need to build an identity and that the coaching search will happen.
It's going to be thorough, right?
It's going to be very thorough.
A long process to find a coach.
And then he said that my goal is in the next week to find this coach. And lo and behold, on my shirt, the man who will no longer have the interim tag attached to his name, head coach Doug Christie, was announced today. So we have a lot to talk about. So let's just jump right in. What are your initial thoughts on the hiring of Doug Christie from interim to head coach?
Doug Christie is a SAC legend. Happy for him. I think the only thing is just like, it's kind of like a here we go again hire. You didn't do your due diligence with going for a search. There's a lot of qualified candidates out there. You didn't interview any. So it's a little bittersweet. Like, I think Doug Christie can flourish. I'm excited to see what he can do with an off season, and hopefully he builds a good coaching staff around him. But part of me is also like, here we go again with Vivek making the decisions. Obviously, there's no way this was solely Scott Perry's decision with the limited amount of information that he has. He hasn't been around the team at all, in the recent months. So happy for Doug, but also just a little frustrated that it's kind of like, here we go again with the quick hires.
I think it's really hard with a GM to come in and just your first task is finding a head coach. So I think that is obviously the hard part. So I do agree with Johnny that it is a Vivek decision, but I think what Doug Christie, he did a really good job. I mean, he was above a 500 record when he took over, and that there are positives, but there are negatives too, right? We talked about once Fox got traded, the defensive efficiency rating dropped from being 9th when Fox was on the team to 21st when Fox was no longer on the team. So you kind of look at that and you say, like, okay, how can we improve our defense? What are things that we can do? So I do think that it is going to be good to see Doug Christie. He was a guy that was on an all-defensive team when he was on the Kings. And so I really think with an off-season coming up, he has a really good chance of really trying to find guys that can really play defensively, that can really, really just do all the things that Doug Christie learned by being under Rick Adelman and just implement that into this roster and this identity of the team.
Guys, we have a special guest on the podcast. The last time the local guy was on the Kang Gang Pod, I believe that was right when the De'Aaron Fox trade happened. A lot has changed since then.
Shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
As soon as local guy made an appearance. So we'll see what happens after today.
I know. It seems like every time we have you on, something crazy happens. And whenever, Kings Media, a big announcement happens, we have to call in the reinforcements. So Thank you again for coming on. What are your thoughts? I know that you've, been vocal online about what you think, but what do you really think of this hire?
Last time I was on, that was the beginning of season number 3 of the one season of Kings basketball. Like, everybody says it was 3 seasons in one. That's 100% true. So honestly, to Johnny and RT's points, like, Doug did a pretty good job considering the circumstances, and you'll never make me hate Doug Christie. My thoughts on this hire are the Kings have already speed run a way to, like, alienate and, like, make a beloved franchise figure, like, not as beloved before as he was before he took a high ranking position in the organization, and it might happen again, but I'm 100% in wait and see mode as of this moment. The roster, like, that's what needs to be figured out. I don't think any of us can sit here and jump to a clear conclusion until they figure out what's going on with the roster. And when the record did kind of take a dip after the Fox trade, I mean, they created a hole that they didn't even need to create, and then he didn't have a point guard. And then after that, everything kind of just snowballed, and it didn't look that great. I think the last 20 games of the year they were 7-13. Obviously, there were some games in there where they looked horrible, including the play-in game. But then, of course, there were the 2 games against Cleveland, and there were some other really good wins sandwiched, in between that one and around those wins. And I just that they were the absolute most confusing team, like that last 10 or 15 games or so. But that's par for the course with the Kings. So I'm not surprised that happened. Yeah, I'm just I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I'm fully in wait and see mode, and hopefully they bring in the pieces necessary to help Doug succeed.
I agree with Local Guy. I think with all the turmoil that happened this season, the fact that Doug was able to have a winning record during his tenure here as a first-time head coach is huge. It's a good sign. But I think to Drew's point, like, you could have fucking prime Greg Popovich, and with this roster, we're still a losing team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm definitely in wait-and-see mode as well.
Yeah, I mean, Doug is obviously, the fan base loves him more than anything, but I think what really prompted the decision making with this was he had the whole locker rooms back. It was shown in the press conference that Scott Perry did a few days ago. He was saying that everyone in the locker room wants Doug, essentially. So I mean, I think he was, it probably was Vivek's decision. It was probably like all set in stone before, Scott even took the job that Doug was going to get it. I think even Shams reported that before Scott even got the job, that Doug was like the front runner already. So it kind of sounded like it was set in stone. But yeah, to all your guys' points, I think from that, what he took on, the 3 seasons in one, I think Jerry Reynolds said that he coached 3 different teams last year with De'Aaron Fox, when a team without De'Aaron Fox, and then a team without Sabonis. So he had like 3 different teams that he had to essentially coach. And yeah, he finished over 500, and I think it was, we'd have to fact check
27 and 24.
Yeah, 27-24. Yep.
So he did finish above 500. I think with Fox, it was obviously a better record because of that 7-game win streak. But for someone that wants to be here so bad, and in Doug Christie's exit interview, he was like just pleading his case why he wants to be here. And we all know that he has unfinished business, and now that he will have a full training camp, will have a full, I'm very curious to see who his, assistant coach hirings will be. But, let's talk about that. Who do you think from the assistant coaches that will stay, and that who do you think will fill in those spots? Because as a guy with little experience in Doug Christie, I think bringing in those, veteran coaches could be huge for us.
I think him and Coach Triano had a good relationship as well. Obviously, Jay and Malik have a really good relationship going back to Charlotte, so it'd be nice to see or to keep Jay Triano on the staff, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's with a lot of the information that's there, I feel like Jay Triano probably is the truest lock out of the staff. I do think it will be more of a general hiring of those that are looking around, so I do think that Scott Perry, I think, will be truly in charge of trying and working with Doug Christie very closely to build the best coaching staff possible. Because when you look at it, Luke Lautz is now gone. We look at a lot of the other people. Lindsey Harding from last year was gone, now in the Lakers. Jordy Fernandez from last year, gone. So you're trying to just fill all these pieces that were gone in the last 2 seasons. You already have depleted your coaching system. So now it's more of trying to find the right fits around Doug Christie and building. It's almost like you're building a roster of coaches.
Yeah. When you say that, RT, it's crazy to think that we had the Avengers coaching staff, and now we got to reassemble them.
Yeah.
And a guy that first comes to mind, because I know they have a very tight, knit relationship, a guy in Philadelphia right now, Mr. Bobby Jackson. Yeah. I'm curious to see if Bobby will make his way back to Sac. I mean, I think the fans will think it's cool, just to have, some local legends back in the city. But, Drew, what do you think?
Gosh. So on top of all the names that you guys mentioned, they also lost, and these were behind the bench guys and player development guys, and they're like the unsung heroes of every staff. But Jordy also took Dutch Gately and
the Lithuanian, correct?
Yep, and Davidas Dulkis.
That's who I met. Him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He took those guys with him to Brooklyn, and I believe it was Dutch was Keegan's like sole player development guy, like working out with him in the off season and stuff. So if you look at Keegan this season and there were things that concerned you, that may have played a part in it, right? Not having the guy that he really leaned on as a player to develop into the player that he was the first 2 seasons of his career. That's gonna suck losing him. So they lost all those coaches, and then on top of that, Doug gets elevated to head coach, so you don't backfill his position, and then Luke leaves in the middle of the season, and it's actually I talked to Luke his last night on the job, and he told me, dude, I fought like tooth and nail to try to stay here for the rest of the season. I really wanted to be here for the rest of the season because he knew how much the team needed him, and he knew how unlikely it was that they're going to bring somebody else through that door to backfill his position in the middle of the season. But if you guys know anything, and I'm going to have a Sac State sweater on right now, if you guys know anything about NIL and this new era of college sports, you can't waste any time. It's the same reason why when Wes Wilcox was announced as the Utah University GM, he left right away. It's because they need to hit the ground running. They got to go recruit. They got to hit the transfer portal. They got to do all this stuff because like some of that money disappears after a certain point based on like whenever the fiscal year starts or ends or whatever for these schools, and then you can't waste any time with recruiting. And Luke was like, dude, like the alumni, the boosters, like they want me there like now, and I have to keep the guys that Leonard Hamilton, the previous Florida State coach that he played under, who just retired, like I need to go try to keep the guys that Lenny recruited, because when a coaching change happens, those guys leave. And then I also got to go hit the portal and find more guys. And he's done a good job of that so far. So you lose Luke. You don't backfill him. Doug gets elevated. That's not backfilled. And then Jim Moran ended up stepping in as basically stepping into Luke's role for the rest of the season. And then coincidentally, season ends and Jim Moran goes to Florida State with Luke. So you lost a lot. Jay Triano is a seasoned, tenured veteran coach in this league. He's been an interim coach before. He's been a permanent head coach before. He's also had the interim tag removed off of him. I think anybody, really, if anybody knows the situation that Doug is in, it'd be Jay. The thing with Jay though is, and I get the same sense with Luke, is those guys were very, very loyal to Mike, and if Mike Brown happens to get a coaching job somewhere or happens to end up on a staff somewhere, I would not be shocked if he says, hey, like what if we were able to bring Jay in here and strengthen this coaching staff. So I don't think it's a guarantee that Jay stays, but I do think that the Kings will make a concerted effort to try to keep him around if they do like him. I don't know what his relationship with Doug is directly, but and I think, we can talk about this because it's out there now. But the night that you guys had me on the first time, I told you guys about the ultimatum that basically ownership gave Mike Brown. It was like, hey, Mike, you got to fire one of Jay or Luke or else we're getting rid of you. And obviously he wasn't going to fire one of his guys, so they fired Mike. Then Doug gets elevated. So that's a little awkward, right? And as far as we could probably tell watching during games, they worked really well together, those three guys. It's just Luke leaves, probably he wasn't missing much leaving. He wanted to go back home to Florida State where he played. And then now Jay's really the only guy left from that trio. And that was maybe a little awkward for him because it's just like he was the most obvious interim head coach candidate. And then they didn't choose him because Vivek loves him some Doug. So I don't know how that situation is going to play out. All I know is they have to fill a lot of positions on that staff. And they're currently still paying Mike Brown $8.5 million a year for the next few years.
Vivek's got his money tied up right now.
Coach, right? So coaching staff hires don't count against the cap or anything like that. But he's eating a lot of salary, and I think that's a big reason why Doug was the hire. Was he's probably not getting paid the going rate for a typical head coach in the NBA. It's probably saving some money for Vivek there. Hopefully, the savings there will allow them to hire a pretty strong staff. But that's not a guarantee because man, he's paying Mike Brown a lot of money to not coach right now. So
yeah, on the topic of coaching in general, this is Vivek's 13th coach under his leadership. So
oh my God,
let that sink in. Unbelievable, but I mean, yes,
that's a crazy stat.
Yeah, so Doug Christie is coach number
Nuts.
13. It is very suiting because he wore number 13. So.
I think it's just, we love Doug, but we just got to remember he has very limited coaching experience, and you look what not that the Lakers had an incredible season this year, they had a pretty good one, but JJ Redick put, Nate McMillan next to him, Scott Brooks, Lindsey Harding, right, former King as well. So he put a great staff around him, and we obviously saw him have some success, right? So I think that'll be key. It'll be nice to keep Jay. If he moves on, we'll find someone else, but hopefully we find some seasoned coaches. And the good part is Scott Perry is well connected in the league. Doug has his connections in the league as well. So hopefully he just surrounds himself with some seasoned guys that have been in the seat before.
No, I completely agree, because I think, Doug, people are saying online that he's not like the biggest X's and O's guys. I keep seeing this everywhere, but it's like the assistant coaches are the ones, that are...
Yeah, it's a group effort.
It's a group effort, so that's why, going off your point...
JJ Redick was a podcaster.
Exactly.
He played in the league, but he was a podcaster the year before he started coaching.
Right, yeah, but I mean, I feel like sometimes that's like a derogatory term. Well... I'm on a podcast right now, so I kind of...
I think it's great. I think it's
I
great.
think
a little friendly
though.
fire. But,
I think you're forgetting that he played 17 years in the
But when he
No,
did,
I'm not saying...
Yeah, when he did the thing with LeBron, though, it's like, you listen to those episodes, and I loved what they did. I love that LeBron's bringing it back with Steve Nash now, because I think it's really important for LeBron's fans especially. Like, the basketball discourse nowadays it's not great. But if you can at least educate some of your viewers about what the actual game is about, then I think you're headed in the right direction. When I was listening and watching those episodes that JJ did with LeBron on the Mind the Game pod, I'm like, dude, JJ really knows what he's talking about, X's and O's wise. And also he was a recent player, so he probably knows that he seemed to do a really good job of managing personalities in a pretty chaotic season for them, with the Luka trade and everything. So it doesn't surprise me that he's had some success, but it's a saying you hear all the time, man. You're only as good as your assistants.
Yeah.
And he has some really great assistants. And then another name that a lot of people have been, singing praises about is Jeff Van Gundy. Like, everybody in and around the the Clippers organization, players, other coaches, and then just like league wide, everybody's just like, dude, look at what JVG has added to that Clippers staff. He's been really, really valuable for them. So
I think he'll be a head coach.
I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah,
I know a lot of people wanted him to be our coach.
Yeah,
I know people are pushing for it. So let's just talk about all of the coaches that are on the table right now, because because there's a lot. Obviously.
You mentioned Bobby Jackson.
Yeah, Bobby Jackson. I think he could be a guy. I think Dave Yeager could fill out our roster. I mean, obviously ties to the city. I don't know how sour they are after what we did to him, but who knows? Maybe Doug Christie could find a way to weasel him in. But there's a lot of guys, and it's interesting because with assistant coaches, you could just pull them from other teams. So it's like because I don't really know how the contracts work for them, but it seems like they could just go. Is that how it works?
It's typically if it's not a lateral move, then that's your out as an assistant. So I mean, another guy I can think of, it's like Sam Cassell. Like, what if you made Sam Cassell, who he's been next in line for a head coaching job forever, and he was one of those guys that I would have definitely been interested. Like if they decided to just not go with Doug, Sam Cassell deserved a very long look, because he's a guy that has head coach written all over him. For whatever reason, it just hasn't happened for him yet. But if you give Sam Cassell an associate head coaching title, which I don't think he has right now, that could be a way to get him, right? You mentioned Yeager. Bobby Jackson, aside from the hometown ties, when he was the G League head coach in Stockton, he was really... Him, Lindsey Harding, they were really instrumental in Keon's development.
That's
big time,
very true.
Big time.
So that's a big tie right there.
They came together, Bobby, Monty, and they said, hey, he was a priority undrafted free agent for a reason. Like, here's the plan, for him to develop as a player. And he got a lot of point guard minutes down there because Bobby said he needed to get point guard minutes down there. And then he wanted him to shoot as many threes as possible off of different platforms, not just spotting up, off the dribble, that kind of thing. So, and then you look at him now, right? Like, he's turned himself into a heck of an NBA player. So you get a guy like Bobby Jackson in the building. It seems like that would really reinforce your player development as well. It would be a huge get. So yeah, those are three right there. Like, the three names that we just brought up are quite interesting. It's just whether they're available and whether you can get them.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what we end up doing, but it's a long summer, and we'll see if the Kings keep making quick decisions, or if they'll really put more time into getting these positions filled the right way. So I think the general consensus of what I'm seeing is that people are they want the best for Doug, but I think just the organization's quick decision making is what is worrisome. But for me personally, I'm obviously a big Doug fan, and I think he has a clear message of how important it is to be a Sacramento King, and like going off of what Scott Perry said, he's looking for defensive guys, people that like will play hard. So now it's just a matter of filling out our roster with guys that fit Doug's play style and how he wants to run the game. And I think we have a lot of free agents on our team, so I think there's going to be a lot of movement. I think we all could agree that DeMar DeRozan might be on the move. I'll open the floor to you guys on what do you think. Maybe RT, can you pull up the guys who we have on the free agent list?
Yeah, let me pull up the contracts right now. While I do that, I think it's really important to know that this is going to be a very critical offseason, right? This is going to be an offseason that really dictates what's going to happen to the roster for the next 3 to 5 years. And whether we are a play-in team where we are competing for that 7 to 10 spot, or if it doesn't go well, we might see ourselves in that 11-12 range that we've been so accustomed to for the last almost 10 plus years, ever since Vivek ran this team. So it's going to be a very, very critical year to really determine whether or not, if we really knock this offseason out of the park, we really have a chance to really build that chemistry and to try and develop. And you never know with those moves that Monty McNair did before the Beam team, signing Malik Monk, trading for Kevin Huerter, drafting Keegan Murray, those moves, keeping Trey Lyles. You look at all the moves that happened. That team got 48 wins and was a 3 seed. So
instant impact.
I think what Scott Perry needs to do is find guys that can make instant impact to this roster around Sabonis and Levine.
But it's not necessarily the big name. It's about how you fit well with,
I'm on the... I do not want to go big game hunting this offseason because hey,
just get a freaking wing, dude. Just get
some athletes, dude.
That's what Scott Perry said.
He said wings.
He said wings, and I'm like, he's saying he wants to take us out to Buffalo Wild Wings or something. Let's do it. Let's all have a feast.
Yeah,
but
sign a wing stop.
They got the $20 unlimited wing deal right now.
Yeah, they do.
So.
Really,
dude.
Scott Perry's
I don't know if Buffalo Wild Wings is a sponsor of this podcast. They just got a free plug. But
speaking of which, today's sponsor is the one, the only, the best sports bar in Sacramento.
Maybe in America.
I would say North America. I would say North America. Mojo's Local Tap and Kitchen. Guys, we talked about it so many times, but you know what? We're going to do it again. Because this guy, Drew, has never been.
I've not been.
And you know what? That's going to change. I bet you he'll be there in the upcoming month.
Bring your dog. If you don't own a dog, buy a dog. Then bring your dog. Get a beer. Get some food.
Make sure you get there when with a big appetite. Don't forget to leave that in the car. Bring it with you because they got amazing food, great drinks. But we have something exciting to announce that is happening in the month of May. The Kang Gang Pod will be hosting a Sacramento Kings trivia night at Mojo's. And let me tell you this. So everyone that is watching, we're going to be posting a flyer very soon, but you're going to have to compete with this guy right here.
This guy's got ball knowledge.
He knows. Some people might argue too much about the Sacramento Kings history.
Please recycle some of the trivia questions from your Kingsmas gift exchange.
Gosh.
Oh, never. We're going to make it harder.
If you do that, then I will have a good chance of winning. But man, there were some really knowledgeable Kings fans that were there. They knew a ton of
there's a lot of diehard Kings fans.
There's going to be some good competition. I feel like. I wasn't able to make the Kingsmas.
Yeah,
I'm excited for this.
For the first event at Mojo's, we would love a big turnout. We would love all the Kings fans to show up wearing Kings gear, bring the Kings knowledge, because like Johnny said, even the fans need an off season.
That's true.
And this is where we put in our training. Oh, that's what you said. The Kings fans need their own training camp. And this is our training camp.
Exactly.
We'll be hosting. We're not going to say the date yet, but we do have a date. But we're going to announce it when it actually happens. But keep an eye out for that because that's going to be very fun.
That's huge. That's huge. Congratulations, fellas.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be very fun. Shouts out Scotty.
Scotty's a good guy.
He loves the vision. He sees the vision.
That's the epitome of a restaurant. Like, if I ever owned a restaurant, I'm going to be Scotty. Like, Scotty's just a great guy. He's just awesome.
He's
just awesome.
I want Scotty to run the Kings organization.
Oh,
the way he runs
true.
Mojos, we need him to...
He should have got an interview, at least.
Hey,
I think they hired the wrong Scotty.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, man.
Once the camera's off, we'll talk about it.
Okay, so on the topic of big game hunting, it seems like we brought in Scott Perry not to rebuild the team. It sounds like we brought in Scott Perry to
retool.
Well, we are that. We're so familiar with it. So
familiar.
Hey,
so
it's not our first rodeo.
It's not our first rodeo.
Is it safe to say the following players are safe? Keegan
has to be safe. Let's stop there and talk about it because it's a contract here for him. So I assume there's going to be negotiations on a contract. So we'll start with Drew. What do you think he's worth money-wise?
Yeah, so he is... So they picked up the 4th-year option on him whenever that deadline was. So he does have 1 year left.
Oh, so we don't have to... Oh, but we could pay him?
But he is extension eligible this summer. So I think you get that done quick. I think you get that done sooner rather than later. I'm not saying they're the same player. I'm not saying that Keegan could make the same jump, but I do believe that there's still a lot in there that you can work with Keegan, where he hasn't really shown his full game yet. He kind of needs to be able to. Honestly, man, I love DeMar DeRozan, but I think it's fair to say that he may have stunted his development a little bit, right? Also, you played in a dribble handoff heavy offense his first couple of seasons. The Kings still lead the league in DHO play types. I kind of feel like that does kind of pigeonhole Keegan into some very specific shot types and shot profiles. If he was able to, freelance a little bit more, I feel like his development would have been, it would have been on a much better trajectory. But I think there's still a lot in there. A guy that I think about immediately that a team got ahead of it with his contract and has since just exploded and already outplayed it is Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy.
Gonna say that.
Trey
My
Murphy
God.
is I mean, like if he was on a better team this year, he would be getting shouts as an all-star.
He can't stay healthy either.
Yeah,
but when he's healthy,
he's always hurt. But when he's healthy, he's been really good. This year, when he was healthy before they shut him down for the season with his injury, he was playing lights. I mean, he killed the Kings like twice when they played.
He's on the Mount Rushmore of Kings.
He's
on that Mount Rushmore.
League a few years.
Yeah,
I mean, when you've dominated and have gone 0-6 and you've gone 6-0 against us the year before, and then you just like
you're automatic from Lillard range.
Yeah,
that deserves like Kings killer merits.
He is my dream wing.
Oh man,
more than lemon pepper. More than
garlic parmesan.
More than garlic
than the ghost barbecue.
Yeah.
Is that ghost jalapeno?
You're sleeping on Thai chili. You're sleeping
Thai
on
chili is
chili.
good.
That's
but-
solid.
Thai chili is
Yeah,
fire.
Trey Murphy though, that he got a 4 for 112, and the second that kicks in, he already will have outplayed it. I don't even think it kicked in this season. I think it kicks in next season. So if you could do the same thing with Keegan, obviously the cap went up. These extensions are a percentage of whatever the cap's going to be. So if Keegan got roughly the same deal, it's probably like 4 for 120 or something like that. Or you can do a 5-year deal and make up for the money instead in years. So you give him a longer deal with maybe like a team option or a player option. And then you don't have to give him as high, an average annual value. So you can save a little bit of money there and like help yourself with the cap there. But he's due for an extension. I say get it done now. And I think that if all works out, he's probably going to outplay that extension as soon as it kicks in. So I hope that the decision there is to just get the extension done this summer so you don't really got to think about it and you lock him up for the next half decade.
I couldn't agree more because I think Keegan Murray is worth that extension for sure. A lot of people I've talked to, they're like on the fence on giving him that much money, but I think he is well worth it because
you can't put him in a box after last year.
Yeah,
like you can't.
No,
with all the changes he's done, like you got to look at his whole career.
And then on the strength of just his defense alone, he's worth an extension.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
People
defenders need to get paid.
The discourse with him is so frustrating because he struggled shooting the ball, the first half of the season. It got better towards the end of the season because shocker, they got another wing in there and then he didn't have to, guard 4s and 5s for 40 minutes a night and Laravia's out there and I know we'll talk about him, but Laravia's out there and when they're out there together or even when Laravia was, when they staggered the two and Laravia came in and played minutes at the 3 and 4 and Keegan got a rest, like Keegan just looked better. He shot high 30s, I think from like the All-Star break onward, which is pretty solid. So I just like, people got frustrated because he wasn't hitting any shots. Dude, his defense is
He
so
guarded the opposing
important.
team's best player
Literally,
every night.
he's so important
Every
to the
night.
team. And when he wasn't out there, it was so obvious that like something's missing. And then like their lineups were like, if him and Keon were playing together, they were so much better defensively. And you have the choice is yours to keep both of those guys this summer on long-term deals. I hope they do. I hope they get those.
I think that's. I agree with Drew. I think those are the first steps. I think that the Kings really make is signing those extension deals to Keon and Keegan, because those two guys, like Drew mentioned, are core for
Essential
defense.
to the
Yeah.
team.
They're essential. They're essential to our team, and I think that doing that is going to be really, really important to build that defensive identity and also attract other free agents, saying like, "Hey, we have Keon and Keegan here for 3-4 plus years, right?" And knowing their defensive abilities, knowing their growth, Keegan's still 25. And Keon is still 24, 25. I'm not sure if he's 24, 25, but it's around that same age. They haven't even hit their primes yet in terms of their defense. So they're only going to get better, you know.
See this? They're scratching.
They're scratching.
They're not there yet. They're scratching.
No, they're scratching. They're scratching. So
They're itching. They're
Exactly.
That should be priority number
They're
one.
pillars of the team.
Yeah.
I think. I view them very, very high.
And we can't get cocky as a franchise. Like back in the the terrible late 2000 years, like we couldn't get people to resign or want to stay here. It's like if they even have an inclining after how last season went to want to stay, like sign the names on the contract
That's what
now.
I'm saying.
Keep them. They want to be a part of the culture. They love Doug.
Yeah, and they want to stay. Like that's the thing. It's like Keon, obviously, I talked to. He's like, yeah, I'd love to stay. Like, why would I want to, right? And then Keegan, by all accounts, like his family loves the fact that he's here. They love that him and Chris are on the same. They're a few hours away from one another flight wise. Since Chris is up in Portland, like their family loves it here. Like he loves it here. Like the decision is yours. They're both going to be. You can Keegan, if he ever does hit free agency, will be a restricted free agent next summer. If not, you can extend him now.
Do it now.
Keon, for those who don't know, if the Kings decline his team option, which is like $2.8 million for next season, which is chump change.
Biggest.
Like one of the 10 best contracts, one of the 10 best non-rookie scale deals in the league for sure. Mm-hmm. If they decline that team option, he also becomes a restricted free agent. Honestly, man, decline the team option, let somebody else drop an offer sheet on him, and just match whatever they offer, and then like lock him up long term. It's not that hard.
I love that. That's a great idea.
I think we just have to pray that Scott Perry views those two guys very, very high as well.
Yeah.
Well, we got to pray Vivek views them.
That's probably the more important thing.
You're so right.
No matter what Scotty thinks,
Okay.
someone
Hey,
supersedes him.
listen. It is Vivek's team until Scott Perry gets a few weeks under his belt. Then once free agency hits, then
It'll still be Vivek's team.
It'll still be Vivek's
Scott
team.
Perry just talks in the press conferences.
Yes,
Hey,
exactly.
Scott's a great talker. He's a great talker. I loved his 30-minute presser. I loved what he was saying. But yeah, I think those two are the guys that are a must stay.
High priority.
It's clear that Scott feels a certain way about Zach LaVine. He was on a podcast not too long ago talking about.
That's awkward.
It was awkward, but let's just break it down really quick. He was saying how Zach LaVine is basically, he doesn't view him as like the number one option on the team, more of like a third, fourth option, and he's not worth that money. Fast forward to now, he's the GM of that with Zach LaVine, the highest paid player on the team. So it begs the question, like, what do you think he's going to do? Right when he arrived, he was the first player that he went and talked to, which I'm sure
He looked at Zach directly in the eyes, like, was I wrong? Like, did anything I say, tell me, Zach. Like, was I wrong in saying, like, literally? That's all he could say. Like, he was speaking facts about LaVine at the time.
Yeah.
But that's the thing you have to love about Scott Perry is that he speaks his mind, and he didn't retract what he said when he was asked about it in the presser. He basically was just saying, we just need to build around Zach. So he still knows that
he didn't say Zach was like a poor player. Like he basically just said he was a third option or a second option on a team.
So
probably third.
Now it's like
Correct.
But another thing that happened in the exit interviews that was crazy. The main headline was Domantas Sabonis, how he just wants, or how we need a point guard.
Oh, brother.
And now that's getting everyone talking, like, who are we going to go for, because I'm seeing I'm seeing these big names. I'm seeing Trae Young. I'm seeing John Morant. I'm seeing Zion, for God's sake. And
Give
I'm
me
like,
some freaking Malcolm Brogdon.
just give me someone who's going to run the offense. Just give me like...
Malcolm Brogdon in the pick and roll is nasty, though.
So you think
the fact that Trey, real quick, sorry, the fact that Trey Jones was involved in the trade in which De'Aaron Fox went to San Antonio but didn't end up in Sacramento,
Unbelievable.
and then the Kings sent their only other true point guard to San Antonio to make the money work is so funny to me.
I don't think Monty double checked the trade offer.
Yeah,
he
but
just
also-
saw Trey Jones.
yeah,
on
but
the-
After
also,
4
years
of drafting point guards.
if you believe, and I mean, I guess we should dismiss Devin Carter, but he's not by definition a true point guard. He's more of like he's more like a combo guard,
He's
like a
not ready
scoring
for
guard.
sure.
So
He's not ready for
But I mean, if we're to believe what was reported out there in the post-mortem after Monty was fired, like, did Monty even really want to make that trade? Sounds like he didn't.
No.
He did not.
So
which is just,
he probably was like, whatever, man. Yeah, I'll get it done, but I'm gonna get it done my way. And his last, like, one of his last middle fingers to Vivek was sending like all the point guards away, so they had no point guards.
it sucks that it had to end that way, because when that report came out, shouts out Sam Amick for
Yeah.
always giving us the juice. But
Yeah, shout out to him.
dude, when I read that, I was just like, of course, Monty McNair didn't want any of the like. He did not want this current roster to happen.
Yeah.
He was forced into it, of course. You know.
I can tell you right now. The Kings could have had Stephon Castle. That's and I know that it was
I
like
agree.
widely reported, and everybody was like, "Oh no, he had to have been off the table." It's like, no. I literally just before I came here posted a clip from James Ham talking about it. I won't speak to what James knows and what James heard, because I didn't hear that there was like a way that they could get him, like there was like a direct path to get him. But I was told by multiple people that Brian Wright, the Spurs GM, wanted to get Fox in the building as soon as possible so that he could work with Wemby ASAP. Like he didn't care what it took. And he said if it meant losing Stephon Castle, I'll get the deal done if it means we lose Stephon Castle, because I want Fox in here with Wemby as soon as possible. But at some point during negotiations, something, got wonky. Like additional teams got looped in, Chicago, obviously. And then I think really the main thing that happened that really threw a wrench in those plans to somehow get Castle here was the fact that Vivek was like, oh, Levine.
We need Levine.
Hey, that guy, I like that guy.
I like Levine.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna say
let's
this
go
really-
get him. And I think the second they pivoted to Levine, the focus was no longer on young assets and guys that you could maybe potentially grow within a rebuild. It's, no, we want some picks plus, a star player as compensation.
You know what is so wild about that name you just brought up? He won Rookie of the Year today.
Today, the 29th.
So now, not only do they have the back-to-back Rookie of the Years with, well, not back, you know what I mean, but
Yeah.
Wembanyama Rookie of the Year and then Stephon Castle Rookie of the Year. They also added an elite, we're going to say top 5 point guard in the NBA, De'Aaron Fox, to that mix. And you know how we needed the win now players? I don't know. I think you could argue that Stephon Castle, he could help you. He could help you win now.
He's a cornerstone. He's a
Yeah.
potential franchise cornerstone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6'6", can defend, athletic.
Oh, no,
could-
we don't like those guys here, though.
Yeah,
You gotta be 6'4".
Ball dominant.
Yeah.
You gotta be
Ball
you
dominant,
can't.
but
You
like
gotta,
not
you
a
gotta
true
be,
point guard.
You gotta be a
Yeah.
combo guard. That's the word.
It's like it's almost like other GMs know that they have leverage. It's like they have leverage against us when they negotiate with us, because they know, like, no matter what our GM at the time, Monty McNair, thinks, we can sweeten it. We can sweeten the owner and have that be the final call. You know what I mean?
I wonder where they take Vivek out to dinner. Where's his sweet spot?
All negotiations, like, they got to be on a conference call. Like,
Yeah.
Vivek is in every negotiation.
Even in Cabo.
And then they feel-
Even in Cabo.
Yeah.
Even in Cabo. He's off and on.
Yeah.
And then they hear a player that he wants, like Levine, and they're like, "Oh, we'll make it happen."
Yeah, that
true.
that
Oh, you
apparently-
want
that
Levine?
happened.
You want Levine?
That-
Okay.
That Levine thing happened quick because once the Kings organization, meaning like ownership and the front office, heard that, because I think it was Denver, Golden State, and Detroit were all in on him, and they, Vivek was like, "Look, I don't, you guys have," and I don't blame him from this perspective. Like, there were a lot of deals that were told to Vivek that, "Hey, we're gonna get these done," right? Because it's been widely reported that somebody in the organization, he's not here, he's not with the organization anymore, was telling people that, "Hey, we're gonna get this deal done, guys," and he was telling players, he was telling the ownership group. And then those deals ended up not getting done. So if that happens enough times, I don't blame Vivek for being like, dude, I'm not waiting around. Levine's out there. He's available. Go get him. Like, I don't blame him from that perspective. So, yeah.
So crazy. So it sounds like Zach LaVine will be on the roster next year. I think DeMar will be out. Sabonis is the next question. I think Sabonis made it clear he really wants to be here, obviously, because of Napa.
Yeah, he has a business venture. And
That's his tie.
Two of his kids were born here.
Yeah. He's got special ties here. But do you think... I'm very curious about the Sabonis situation because I was hearing how his value is not that high around the league because if you trade for Sabonis, you have to cater your entire team and offense to how Sabonis plays, and I just don't think moving Sabonis would get us back what we think it would.
Yeah.
So I think we just have to build around Sabonis, and I think Sabonis knows and he's seen obviously how good this team could play when he is the hub of the offense, and then when DeMar came, it obviously it went away from that a little bit. So I think what he wants clarity on and what he wants to see happen next year is that beam team style basketball where he's the hub, where he's getting all the touches, DHOs, pick and rolls with him, but he needs a point guard to make that happen. So that's where I think he's at now.
I think Sabonis is a must keep, and you got to remember how hard it is in the league to get a versatile big on your team. Like they're not easy to come by, and obviously we've seen Sabonis during that beam team season be one of the main ball handlers, one of the main focal points on a historic offense. So we've seen it work. He's still at a good age. He loves it here. He loves this community, and I think he's a for sure stay. Just because of how limited the big market is, and we don't want to be in another Marvin Bagley, Dwayne Dedmon situation. Like I have nightmares still. that was our front court at one point, I don't want that again.
Goodness.
So I'm thinking of Sabonis. I'm hugging him tight, and I want him to stay king for a long time.
Yeah, I think he will be. I think. We have no choice. I think we just have to build around him.
Is he a free agent? Is this guy a free agent?
We cannot sign him. We can't sign him.
I mean, if we move Sabonis, there's only one answer.
I just can't believe that you have a half cardboard cutout of Marvin Bagley.
I know. I wish I had the full thing.
Yeah,
That's so crazy.
I mean, the last episode that we recorded, we just have done this. Actually.
Yeah.
We just not.
Did you see that?
Yeah, that was.
I punched him like
that
6
was
times.
right
Because
there.
I was very upset on
Right
how
there.
our season ended, and I had to let it out on someone.
It was insane. Yeah,
He went
Poor
off
Marvin.
in one game.
He had
this year.
Dude.
He had a half court shot.
Yeah, he didn't miss a shot.
He went 8 for 8.
Yeah.
8 for 8.
Yeah,
from Marvin.
it was
40-point
wild.
blowout.
It was wild,
Crazy, bro.
dude. Like the fact that Marvin Bagley was getting playoff minutes.
And all Kings fans were at home.
So
he was
crazy.
so
at
happy.
home. Like,
Yeah.
dude,
He was so
what?
happy.
Yeah.
He was living his dream in that game.
Anyway, with that being said, the big market is slim. And it's hard to find a big who does more than just rebound, which he does incredibly well, if not the best in the league. He's a great passer. He can score.
3 years in a row, by the way.
He knows
Best
the offense
rebound.
well.
Yep.
He knows how to be successful in the offense. He loves Doug. Doug loves him. So I think that's a must stay.
I agree. I think that's the biggest thing. I think you having that. I know those 4 guys: Levine, Sabonis, Keegan, and Keon. Those are 4 guys. I do think that DeRozan does get moved at some point. It's going to be tough to move him because what are you going to get in return? Are you going to get a second round pick this year potentially? Because that seems like the value at this point for him being 35 years old. Maybe you somehow get a late first round, but even then, I don't think there's a lot of teams that are racing to go get DeMar DeRozan to be that team that gets them over the hump to win a championship. At this point in his career,
Yeah. I mean, he still had a really good season.
He still had a good
season.
Amazing.
Do we see a potential?
Guy's just a hooper, man.
Dude.
Do we see a potential return in Toronto? Maybe Toronto might want him back. Give us a young piece.
I don't think Toronto.
I don't think he's ready to go to Toronto yet. I think he's got to go to a team where he could, get a playoff run in him and then end the career in Toronto.
Well, the two other teams that were interested this past summer were Miami and the Clippers.
I can
Right.
totally
I can
see
see
Miami
Miami. I
because
can see that.
Miami's desperate right now.
Yeah.
The way
Give
they
us
ended their
Jokic.
season.
No, they would never give us Jokic for tomorrow.
I'll take Khalil Ware.
Yeah.
Khalil
How
Ware
funny
for
would it be
DeRozan?
if we got Davion back?
Khalil Ware.
Sweet Khalil Ware could have just been the pick at 13.
He really could
I
have.
know.
Love Devin Carter, but
Yeah, we love
based
DC.
Khalil
on
Ware's legit.
team need and all that stuff.
Oh
It's
yeah,
Literally
absolutely.
The spot we need the most.
Where was the guy that him and like Tristan Da Silva, even Connect, like there were guys on the board that probably made a lot more sense there at 13. But anyways, that's
But they're a wing. They're a wing. We don't.
They don't
get those rumors.
Yeah. We don't care about those around here. Yes, Sabonis. I think the tricky thing with him is, like you guys had alluded to, his market is not going to be robust because we've seen what Sabonis has looked like, not being the hub of an offense, right? And if I think he's on the hook for, I think it's like 43, 46, 49 is how his deal inclines over the years. So you're not going to pay that money for a dude who's just going to be like a hustle guy, because that's what he was before he really took off his last couple years in Indiana. The fit was wonky on offense in Indiana, but I was just made aware of this today. His last 2 seasons there, they were 3rd and 6th in defensive rating with him and Miles Turner playing next to one another.
Right.
So
Miles Turner's a free agent.
And I don't know. I don't know. Apparently, both of those guys had their feelings about playing with one another. Really, it was just like offensively, specifically. But the thing is that is kind of your roadmap. Like, you should probably try to get a legit rim running on offense, rim running big, who can also protect the rim a little bit on the other side of the court. And it's just like they never really got that guy in there. And I would have been interested to see a guy like that play with Sabonis. They just never really made a concerted effort to get one of those guys. Love JV. Like, Valanciunas was a great pickup at the deadline, but he's pretty pigeonholed on defense. You can play one pick and roll coverage with him, which is just drop coverage. And I mean, Evan Mobley scored like 15 straight points against them.
Yeah,
with him sagging off in the paint that one night.
Don't let JV guard the perimeter.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like if he gets switched, or if he has to play drop against a big who can shoot, that's when you get in trouble, right? So. I think the Kings are in a solid spot with the bigs on their roster right now. It's just with Sabonis on it, you could probably get a little bit more creative if it means moving on from JV and finding value for him to get a guy or to either open up a spot for a guy who can protect the rim and then also rim run on offense. Then great, but I just don't know how feasible that is. I think JV's on 10 million these next couple of years.
Yeah, he's 10 million
he's
next
a
year.
10 piece.
So it's kind of like, okay, like, and you absorbed him into your mid-level. Like I think that resets at the new league year, so you get another one, but like you just, absorbed him into something that you could have used elsewhere. I don't think you're really, itching to get rid of him, especially after we saw how nice it was to have legitimate backup big play.
I love JV.
Yeah.
I'm a big JV
solid,
guy.
man.
Yeah, he's solid. So, we'll see. I just don't like Sabonis is a very specific player that you need very specific players around. There are teams that make a lot of sense to put him on. It's just I don't know if they'd be willing to pay that price tag for him because honestly, if there is a Sabonis trade this summer, the Kings are not going to get what people expect. I just think that there won't be enough bidders to drive up the price because he's such a specific guy and has very specific needs as far as him being a successful player. So I wonder if a trade happens. I don't think one does, but I guess I should ask you guys about this. His comments about wanting clarity.
Yeah,
I think that's huge.
Like,
I think that also kind of ties into what you were talking about, Drew, is what's his value level going to be? What's going to be the return for Sabonis, right? And that's the thing that I think a lot of people in the league are discussing. Like, what's going to happen with clarity? Yes, he wants clarity on the team. What's the direction going forward? It sounds like with Doug Christie coming back, it sounds like they are trying to make a team that can compete and part of that West team to get themselves back in the playoffs. I think that's what everybody wants. I mean, we talked about it on the last podcast episode. The Kings have only made the playoffs once in the last 19 years. So I think that Vivek, I think that ownership, I think that Scott Perry, I think all are in agreement on trying to get themselves to be a consistent playoff team year in, year out with the core of Sabonis and a core of Keegan, Keon, and Levine. I think that's just where it is right now. And I think it's hard to move off Sabonis for that sole reason, because if you do move off of him, what are you going to get in return? You're not going to get the value that we would want, right? And I don't think that there's going to be any teams that could say, oh, we can give up some of our young pieces for a chance at Sabonis to be a second and third option on a championship team. That's just not
$46 million a year.
That's not what his contract is. So unfortunately, his contract is being the number one option on a team that you're trying to build young pieces around.
Yeah, I'm in the boat of we've seen it work before with him why is it out of the realm of possibility to do it again?
I agree.
No.
I completely agree.
I agree too.
I was seeing some odds of if Sabonis were to get traded, that like Portland was a favorite.
Indiana
Was a favorite. I saw Charlotte and the Nets. So I was like, okay, who would we get in return from those teams that would make a difference? I don't think any. I'm all for keeping Sabonis on the team. So
I will say this though, that you brought up odds. It's so funny that people put odds on specific things, like Doc Rivers being the next coach.
Yeah, thank God that never happened.
In Sacramento, he was like supposed to be the favorite to be the new Kings head coach.
Damn, if the Kings had just waited one day.
I don't know.
What a way to go out, by the way.
That's the most Doc Rivers way to go out.
Yeah.
Was how that game ended.
He's going to be like, well,
that epitomizes who he is as a coach.
He's going to say, no one's going to give me credit for that one win I got against Indiana.
Nobody. The league's
Dude,
against
that is
them,
the
man.
worst way to lose. Unbelievable game tonight. But, Archie, do you have that list of the free agents? Because I know there's a lot of free agents. Can you go down the list right now?
Oh, like for all the NBA teams?
No, just on the Kings.
Oh, just on the Kings. I was like, whoa, you're just going crazy. So
We'll get into that conversation
so
later.
Trey Lyles is our free agent. Markelle Fultz is going to be a free agent. Doug McDermott's a free agent.
Max.
Jay Crowder is a free agent. Mason Jones is a free agent. Isaac Jones is a free agent.
No, Isaac's not.
Oh, he's not?
No, he's on a standard
Oh,
contract.
he's on a standard contract. Oh, because they removed it.
Yeah, they converted him.
That's
Thank
right.
God.
They converted it. That's huge.
That's good business.
That is good business. So Isaac Jones is not a free agent, so that's huge. And then I don't know is Isaiah Crawford? He's still on a 2-way contract though, right?
I think his 2-way contract was just the year-by-year one, so they're probably going to give him another one this offseason.
Probably.
Unless the team signs him.
Right. Yeah. I think I think if you have a 2-way player, you have like basically the right of first refusal for him, so you can give him the 2-way contract first for anybody else, but that has to happen sometime like during around the time of the California Classic, because once you get to Vegas, that's when teams kind of start making the decision to either renew or not renew 2-ways. Jordan Ford is an example. So Jordan Ford was on a 1-year 2-way last season. By the time the California Classic was over, because he played with the Kings for the California Classic, by the time that was over, they knew they weren't going to be bringing him back. They basically just let him negotiate with whoever they wanted, who he wanted to negotiate it with, and he ended up in New Orleans before going overseas. So
he's killing it in Italy, by the way.
And he's killing it in Italy.
Really?
Shout out to Jordan. But
Yeah, shout out him.
But they're gonna have to make that decision sometime pretty early on. Sometime around Summer League.
And then also Jake Moravia. I know we haven't really touched on him as much. He is on a
It'd be
team
nice to
option.
keep him, man.
He's
Let's
on a
talk
team
about him
option.
first,
Yep. Let's talk about him.
because that's the guy.
So
I
explain
think.
why the Kings are in a hardship.
So
hardship.
with LaRavia, so he's not on a team. He's actually his situation is so unique because and Zach
Memphis killed us
Kleeman,
for that.
the Memphis GM, admitted that he's like, yeah, I probably made a mistake not picking up that team option. But the reason why the Kings cannot extend Jake for more than, I think it's either 5.1 or $5.8 million annually.
Not that much.
It's really not that much, and he's a wing, which is a position that comes at a premium in this league, right? Like he's worth more than that annually.
So why can't they offer him more than that?
Because of the new CBA, if you decline a player's 4th-year option, he defaults to unrestricted free agency. The team that has his bird rights, and the Kings now own his bird rights, can't go above a certain amount of money based on what he was making previously.
That's so frustrating that even though he's traded,
and it's so dumb. Yeah,
the team that didn't even decline
exactly.
him.
But since he's on his rookie deal, his bird rights travel with him.
That's
so
so
the
ass.
team that has his draft rights, his original bird rights, can't go above a certain number to extend them annually. So really, the ball's in his court, and I was told that. Dude, he loves it here.
I know, which is such a surprise.
He loves
I'm
Sacramento.
so surprised
and
by
then
his answer.
probably even more important than that. And hey, shout out to Jake. He just was that today or yesterday? He got engaged.
I think it was yesterday.
Yesterday. So yesterday,
I
as
saw
this
that.
recording,
Oh,
he
yeah.
got engaged.
Got engaged.
He now has his
In
now
Canada.
fiance.
In Canada, he did it.
Wow. And apparently, maybe more important than him liking Sacramento, apparently she loves it here too.
Yeah,
Okay, so
huge.
Let's go.
So
That
maybe
is way
and
more
obviously
important.
in his exit interview, he said, "Oh, if Doug comes back, I would like Doug to come back. I like Doug as a coach. Doug is now your head coach." So they're doing it seems like all the things are kind of falling into place for Jake to stay here.
Please,
Unfortunately,
Jake, please.
if somebody comes with an offer that he can't say no to, you know, like if somebody comes with twice that amount per year, it's hard for me to imagine him saying no to it.
What if we sign him to a 1 year at the maximum allowance and then just extend him once the season starts?
Yeah, you can get creative with stuff like that. Like you can do like a 1-and-1, like you can sign him to like a 1 year deal with
Have
like
it
a
kick
player
in
option,
later.
team
Promise him
option,
you're gonna give him more,
exactly.
yeah.
And then like he can opt out or you can decline the team option and then you extend from there. But I just don't know, man. It's so tricky and it's just so nuts that like. I mean, that was like a at the buzzer deal too. Like Monty got that like shot. The
That was
Shams
the last
tweet went
deal
out.
to be done.
Yeah, I think that was like the last deal to be done at the deadline, and everybody like a lot of people were like, "Who?" The 2022 draft cycle was like one of my favorites. I mean, like Keon, you know. But obviously that was a really important draft for the Kings, so I did a lot of homework. Jake was on like my list of guys that I absolutely loved. He was a riser. If it wasn't for Jalen Williams jumping all the way up to 13, I think was where he was selected. People will be talking more about Jake being a riser as well because he had like a late first round, second round grade on him. He ended up getting picked 19th. And has he lived up to that draft status? I would say no. But outside of the years where he's been injured and in situations where he gets a lot of minutes, he produces.
He passed the eye test.
Yeah, he passed the eye test. You know, and if you watched him in college,
Deacon.
if you watched him in college, at Wake Forest, he had another guy playing with him named Alondas Williams who was like really like he was like the true alpha on that team. Like he did a lot of the scoring. But the stuff that Jake did, I'm just like, dude, like this guy can do so much when he gets to the NBA because he's so versatile. Well, I don't think the same thing you said earlier about Keon and Keegan just scratching, right? Like it's this same thing with Jake.
Same thing with Jake.
If you give Jake an expanded
he's only
role,
23, 24?
Yeah, he's still young. Yeah, I think he only played 2 years in college, so he's
Jake
only
is-
23, 24.
We
Yeah,
need him to
he
stay.
needs to come back.
Dude, we need him so bad. That is like outside of Keegan and Keon. That's next order of business
for sure.
Okay, now it brings up the question: Trey Lyles. How are we feeling about Trey Lyles? Because he's making $8 million.
Yeah,
I don't want to give him anything more than the minimum.
Yeah, are you able to offer him less?
He
than $8
probably
million?
doesn't get anywhere close to that this time around.
Yeah.
Because Trey's had such an up and down year, such an up and down year. Because at the end, he started showing glimpses of why we fell in love with Trey, and then there were so many times where it looked like he can't jump up onto the curb, and you're like, well,
RT's vert has got to be competitive to Trey's. I think
what I'm
They
saying.
gotta have a
Hey.
side by side vert.
that's what I'm saying.
Hey, man.
So
No,
it's
but
like,
I
what do
think-
you guys think?
I
What do you
think we need. He's replaceable for sure. I mean, we love him. He was great the season before last.
Oh, man.
Showed glimpses last year, I guess, but it was just disappointing for the most part. And I think we could replace him with someone a little bit more athletic.
Yeah, and I think we have a second round pick this year. I will
41? Is it 41?
I think it's 41.
something like 41, 42.
Yeah, 41, 42.
We're
I
paying
will.
attention. That's the only one we got this year.
We're so locked in, man.
Yeah,
That's the only one we got.
It's the only well, technically, if we get lucky though, that is one
Yeah,
thing.
there is a
If we get
chance.
lucky, 3.5% chance to
Wait,
be
you
in
know
the top
what?
4.
Remember when we said that whenever Drew comes on the pod, something crazy happens?
Hey, that might be
Hey.
the lottery.
It might be
Are we
it.
jumping up? Are we jumping up, Drew?
Lottery's in what, 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks, yeah, 2
Are
weeks
we
from now.
jumping up? I think Drew's
man.
saying we're
2
jumping up.
weeks from now.
I believe, man.
I would
I'm keeping the
love
faith.
that.
This lottery, the way the lottery's set up now it's pretty. It can get pretty crazy.
Dude, anything can
Yeah,
happen.
Monday, May 12th.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's coming up.
baby.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna be locked in on May 12th.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we somehow manage to get a top 4 pick, you'll never hear the end from me, really me, but for the rest of us. But
For sure.
I will just stem it back all the way back to our second round pick. I do think that our second round pick will most likely be the Trey Lyles replacement at some point.
Interesting.
I think to me it just makes the most sense just from where you can find guys that could get you that value.
Yeah, you can get some really good value
I mean, Janae Broom, I know he was in Auburn. He probably is going to be around that range, I would have most likely assume. So that is one name that probably people are talking about. But again, that's just the assumption is probably a power forward in that caliber. That would be my first guess because that will allow you to. And again, I know that we have Isaac Jones on the team too. So
Isaac's an interesting option.
So there are options here. So we do have the capability of probably drafting another wing too to add to our wing need in the offseason.
Yeah. You have the Keegan extension looming if it gets done this summer. Obviously, you don't have the books for it right away, but you got to plan for it a little bit. And I mean, Levine and Sabonis accounting for like 90 just over 90 million of your cap. Like that, you have to be able to find value and win on the margins elsewhere. Keon is probably the big holdover extension that you're probably going to give money to, right? So like you have to plan for that, right? So you have to win on the margins elsewhere. Dude, if Isaac can play on his current contract and give you, like a solid minutes and real production there at like $2 million or whatever he's gonna be making next season, that'd be a massive win. And then losing Trey, you can kind of stomach that a little bit if you get a guy like him contributing. So
I think Isaac Jones could be the Trey replacement.
I think so too.
I love what I saw of Isaac.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of spots you could either draft. I think to me, what it really comes down to, I think with that second round pick, you just got to go best player available.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to go best player available. You just need to. You can't really just think about what player can do it. You just got to find the best player that can fit into that rotation in day one.
Or you do a DeRozan and 41 pick and try and move up.
You could.
Anything can happen. Scott Perry knows a lot of people.
You could.
He does.
You could move your way into the late first round. So there is a possibility.
Never know.
So,
you never know what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, it all is going to depend on what the lottery is in 2 weeks. Obviously, the lottery is May 12th.
Yeah,
so.
we're jumping up. I think that's what the
Yeah.
So we should prepare for Cooper Flag.
Oh,
should
man.
prepare.
If we get Cooper Flag, the whole roster, everything changes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to make that, like, very abundantly clear. Everything changes.
My God,
I think DeRozan and the 41st gets us the number one pick. I think that's a good starting point for negotiation.
Oh my God!
On the topic of the pick, though, my question to you guys regarding the pick freeing up. So let's say that pick does convey to Atlanta because they don't jump, and then you're free to trade whatever future draft capital you have, right?
Ooh.
The 2026 draft is quite good. It's probably better than this one this year.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'd agree.
Is that the Bryce James draft?
Potentially.
He's on there. He's on that
potentially. But let's say now the war chest is completely like you are now freed from the Kevin Huerter protected pick that you sent off, right, to Atlanta to get Kevin Huerter. Would it terrify you guys knowing that there's a chance, because we don't know what this team's going to look like. If the team ends up not being great and that pick ends up being quite good, would it terrify you that there's a good chance that if that pick gets freed up this summer because the pick doesn't jump, that Scott Perry might be told or encouraged by ownership to be like, nah, man, like trade next year's pick if you have to. Go big game hunting. and then you trade for a guy that doesn't really move the needle, but it's like splashy, because that's what this ownership group loves. And then you lose a quite valuable pick in the short term, and then your team ends up sucking anyways, and then that pick ends up being like a top 7 pick. Like, how would you guys feel about that? Does that terrify you at all?
No, absolutely.
Does it terrify you at all that pick is now freed up? It could be freed up in a couple weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could possibly. Yeah, no, I feel it, Drew. Like, that is something that has been on my mind. Are
you saying big game hunting for this current off season?
Yes.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, because if it doesn't convey, that first round pick could be on the table for.
Right. Well, how good is Scott Perry
somebody,
drafting?
right? So
Scott
we'll
Perry
see.
sucks at drafting.
Well,
it's a mixed bag, man.
It is a mixed
Scott's
bag.
better at the acquisitions rather than the drafting.
Drafting.
We'll see.
But I mean, like, again, I do think overall, yes, that does. To answer Drew's question, yes, that does frighten me a little bit. Where a rash
seeing things right now.
It is just a rash decision. I could see a rash decision being made where that first round pick in 2026 could be moved for a guy that just pushes you from being in the 7-8 playing game to 6-7 range,
right?
And that it doesn't necessarily move that needle, especially in a tough Western Conference. You almost kind of have to look at the roster like I mentioned earlier, 3 to 5 years now, and see how can we sustain a consistent playoff team throughout these years, because it's going to be tough to really do it. We're not going to sugarcoat it on here. Mm-hmm. This roster that we have, it's going to be very tough to build a consistent playoff roster, right? Yeah. So I just think, to me, you have to realize that you cannot trade away the 2026 pick, especially like you said, Drew. That class is very deep, right? You have an opportunity to fix another hole in your roster if things don't go well this next year.
Yeah. And I guess the good news is, like, just to quell your fears a little bit, RT.
just a little bit. Like, take it from like a 5 to like a 3.
It's like a 120
They do
BPM.
have a 2027 unprotected from San Antonio. Now, a lot of people expect it to be not a very good first round pick,
They
right?
should be very good by
but
then.
but you never know.
You never
just
know.
never know.
Injuries.
Injuries can happen.
Yeah.
Injuries can happen.
So that
Players
that
may
could
not
be,
develop.
You
Right.
can pair either your own 2027 or San Antonio's 2027 with something else or other picks, and then you can move that instead of the 2026. I'm terrified of losing the 2026 pick.
That's what I'm saying though, because I do think that it's really important to keep that pick, especially going in.
Is that our pick, Drew?
Yeah, so
one you're talking about?
Yeah. So 2026, if the Kings jump, okay, this draft, then that's another year in which you cannot trade like that pick because that
becomes top 10 protector, right?
yeah, it becomes top 10 protected, and so
Wow.
it's still tied up to Atlanta, which is like we're approaching, like, if it doesn't convey in 2 weeks, we're approaching like the Omri Caspi, JJ Hickson trade levels of like trade protection brilliance, because that pick did not convey for like 8 years, and then eventually it turned into 2 seconds. But if it does convey, then yeah, that opens up the war chest. You can trade whatever you want. So
Wow.
yeah, but that is the Kings own 2026 that I'm talking about. Yeah.
So on the topic of big splashes, so say Vivek is really pushing for Scotty to make that splash, make that cannonball into the ocean. It sounds like the point guard hunt is the guy we would be going for. With the names that we've been hearing recently, I keep hearing the name. I don't love the names I'm hearing right now because I think going for star players is the last thing we need to do. Because I keep hearing, like, I don't want to be hearing John Morant and Trae Young. Like, I don't.
There's just too many holes on the roster.
Yeah.
I think that would just. That's
That would
not.
set us back.
I think that's just not the way to go.
Yeah.
You don't want John Zion on the team?
Dude, that'll
Hey, they
fix
played-
everything.
they
If we
played
were
on
to
AAU
get John
together,
Morant,
everything.
John
They
Morant
played
would play 29 games.
They
If
played-
he were to get traded here, he'd get hurt and play 29 games.
Well, I'll
And
tell
you
you
get
what,
20
they-
from Zion.
they were-
Yeah,
Zion
they
would be
were-
a salt and straw
They
during the
were.
game. Just chilling. He wouldn't even be at the arena.
I don't blame him.
They
Salt
played.
Smells good.
It's fire.
It's fire.
They're
They
cereal.
were AAU teammates at one point,
Yeah.
so you already got the chemistry.
That's the only answer,
so,
I think.
So my question is, who's the point guard? Who do you think we go after?
Oh, God.
Okay, so Trae Young, which I think you mentioned very briefly earlier. I think Kirk Goldsberry on Bill Simmons' podcast did kind of insinuate that there was a little bit of flirting between Atlanta and Sacramento at the deadline, and it was something around Trae Young. Trae Young also, I mean, you think about who was in the front office at the time, Wes Wilcox, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was a big reason why Kevin Huerter ended up here, because he was a guy that, he was a part of that front office when Kevin was drafted there. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there was like major smoke there, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were some conversations, because in the same vein that Luka got traded because the Mavs didn't want to give him that massive supermax, like Trae Young qualifies, this coming off season for that supermax. And so it's kind of like,
I feel like Vivek loves Trae.
yeah.
I feel like Vivek.
Actually, it might not be this offseason. It might be next offseason.
Yeah, because he's a year after. Because I
Fox.
think he has a player option next year.
Right. So yeah. So it's kind of like he's kind of in the same situation that Fox was heading into this past season. Right. So it's like, do the Hawks want to tie up that much money on just one guy that they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals one time, but aside from that, it's been kind of whatever. It's like,
Very similar.
do they
to us.
want to? Yeah. Do they want to foot the bill the same way that like Dallas was probably about to with Luka had they not made that trade, and then kind of the same way with Fox, like he wouldn't have qualified because he didn't make All NBA this past season, or this current season, but like that's a lot of money tied up to one guy, right? And I think owners are kind of hesitating, kind of balking at that. Like a lot of people are thinking that the Celtics owners sold the team because they don't want to make that decision when it comes to both of the Jays. Right, so it's kind of like a lot of people are just like, man, this new CBA has kind of got us in a bind. We kind of don't want to make these decisions. Like, we're out of here. We'll just sell the team. We don't want to be crucified like Nico Harrison and that ownership group for trading a guy like Luka. Right, so it's kind of the same thing with Trae. So I think it's fair to speculate that there might be a chance that he gets traded. Probably more than Ja, but I don't really know what's going on with Ja most of the time, man. Like he's doing the cryptic tweet thing, and there was like stories about like Taylor Jenkins was his boy, and then they fired Taylor, and like now
I think
like we're all kind of all over the place with Ja. Like I don't know what's going on there.
I think when you look at how those two teams, their season ended, something's bound to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think the same with the Bucks, how they just ended. Like, I think when you have like a catastrophic end to your season, I think it's like it just spells out change. Like change is bound to happen.
This offseason is going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's crucial.
There's going to be a lot of
I think this will be the
movement.
most interesting offseason that we've had in quite some
Hopefully
time.
we're in sit back and wait mode and don't do anything critical until, you know, things start falling. But we'll see. We only know, you know, Monty's the type of GM to kind of wait for offers to come, right?
Yeah.
He was really asset, you know, protective. So we'll see if Scott Perry's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. What has been like Scott Perry's like biggest like what is he known for the most?
He did
outside of
the Porzingis to
Dallas
trade.
Okay.
Yeah. So and so I've talked to a few Knicks people just to get a sense on the guy and his time in New York. It was so weird. Like he was hired after his 3-month stint here, and by the way, by all accounts, he was great here during his 3 months. Like you keep on hearing like James Ham keeps on repeating this phrase over and over. He's like, there was an adult in the room when Scott Perry was hired here. Like this place didn't know how to run until a guy got here and at least helped them walk first. And then he leaves because the Knicks were his dream job. And then like his most infamous draft move was Kevin Knox. Like that did not work out. Like Kevin Knox was not great. And then the other thing that he was known for was the Porzingis trade. And so it's kind of like, yeah, when I talked to Knicks people, it really just it definitely was like a mixed reaction when I talked to certain people. Like some people were kind of just like, yeah, he's all right, like he'll stabilize your cap sheet, that kind of thing, right? But when it comes to like weird things that he's into, it's like apparently he really loves like reclamation projects. Like he will sign guys that are like towards the end of a rookie deal, or like trade for guys towards the end of a rookie deal, or like sign guys that like didn't really succeed on the rookie deal and kind of like give them, you know, an extra shot, you know, and see if they can like maybe get a reclamation project and get a guy that was maybe in the wrong situation and needed to change the scenery. So there might be guys out there that may fit that mold right there that the Kings could target this offseason if Scott is still of that, you know, frame of mind and still likes that thinking. But he by all accounts, like again, aside from being very well connected and having been in the business for a long time, just really knows how to like not get your cap sheet out of control. So you're probably not going to make something. You're not going to make a move that's so crazy that like you go to, that the Kings are all of a sudden like a second apron team, a first or second apron team. Yeah, and he wouldn't let that happen. Exactly.
No, he's paying 55 coaches. So
yeah, exactly.
No way
like, he's not going to do that, you know. But the other thing about him is like, yeah, if it comes down to it, he's not afraid to make a big move if he sees fit, and the Porzingis trade was like kind of the big example of that.
So he has it in him to make the move.
Yeah.
Was he influential in the Jalen Brunson signing, or was that after he left?
I think he was. But also by that time, Leon Rose was hired, and Leon was hired in the position above him. Like he worked under Leon on that point.
Because if he was behind that, I'd be bound down.
Yeah, I think he was helpful and instrumental in it, you know, and he's been a part of some pretty good front offices. Yeah, I think really the only stint where you could point to where he was kind of like lost in the wilderness for a few years was he was with the Pistons from like 2013 to like 2017 before he got hired by the Kings, and like that was a very weird era of Pistons basketball.
Andre Drummond and Greg Monroe.
and Reggie
playing
Jackson.
together.
You know, like it was just like such a weird group, and like it's very very you know, like popular thing that people are talking about right now is like the Pistons only just won their first 2 playoff games, and like for the first time in like 15 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So during his entire time in Detroit when they were making the playoffs, they were getting swept every year. So it's just like, yeah, it was a weird time for Pistons basketball.
And was he there before Blake Griffin got there too?
I think he was. I think so. Yeah.
Because even when Blake got there, like Detroit got kind of fun again for a short period of time.
It was interesting. Yeah.
I guess we just have to hope for the best with Leon. I mean, not Scotty.
The Kings of Leon.
The Kings of Leon.
Kings of Leon. I'm listening to that on my drive.
Yeah, if Leon Rose was the hire, then that would have been the
best.
It was right there. Nickname. It would have been right there for us. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to come up with something good for Mr. Perry.
Perry the Platypus.
That's a good one.
That's actually a really good one.
Some people have already been saying that. Yeah, that's not a bad one.
Oh.
Hey, we got to start using that on here.
Yeah. We got to.
Yeah, start getting it out there.
I think the next order of business, let's talk about Sac State.
Huge.
Sac State.
Pivoting from Kings to Sac State. Yeah.
Hey, I just want to say, I left this comment on the Sac State page after we signed, or we announced that Mike Bibby will be the head coach. I said, my stinger has never been more up
Yeah.
than it is right now.
Yeah.
And I was getting a lot of flack for that, but hey, my stinger's even more up now.
Even more.
Because we just got
Yeah,
Shaquille
man.
O'Neal as the GM, and then we got Mikey Williams.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Joining the squad.
It's crazy. Before this season, the best recruits for the basketball team were there. It was a guy named Nick Hornsby who was like a 3-star recruit. He was a part of the best team in the D1 era. They won 23 games in 2014, 2015. That was like a magical season. Where they had guys that were like, they had no business playing at Sac State, but they just somehow ended up there, and they just took it as far as they possibly could. And their best recruit on that team was like their third best player, who was like a 3-star recruit. In the short amount of time since Mike Bibby has taken over, he's already outdone that, like, 2 or 3 times over. They've gotten some really nice transfers. Mikey Williams is obviously the big name. But they've gotten guys that, even though the college production hasn't been there, or they haven't really been able to see the court, these were very, very highly touted recruits, and that's super exciting, and it's just like, you look at like the brand, like just the brand power now is nuts. You have Mike Bibby, head coach, Shaq as the GM, Brendan Marion, the football coach, probably could have had his pick of FBS jobs. He wanted to go to FCS Sac State because I think he's going to be really instrumental in helping the team eventually go FBS as well. So a lot of exciting things happening at Sac State, and that basketball team is like, they're playing in a new facility,
right?
Yeah, or like it's not like it won't be their permanent home, it won't be their permanent long-term home, but they're turning the Well, which is the Student Wellness Center, into
That's where they're playing?
Yeah, they're going to be turning it into a much bigger
way.
basketball
Nice.
facility to finally move out of the nest. So
NIL is the best thing to happen to Sac State.
Yeah, I mean, man. And they almost signed Mike Vick too. Michael Vick, they
I
almost
know.
managed to get
That
him
was
too.
crazy.
So that would have been even crazier. But I think to me, kind of just reacting to all this, right? To the whole Mikey Williams signing. I know Shaq's son is part of the team too.
Sure.
So that these are all moves that they're trying to make to compete not only in football but also compete in basketball too.
Yeah.
So I think they're trying to make a move to really, really be a part of bigger conferences, and I think that this NIL stuff that's really happening is almost like the jump start of doing that, because they're trying to just be in like the Mountain West, right?
Yeah.
And that's like the bigger conference. That's a big FBS school, and even though the Big Sky is a very solid school, it's not. It's FCS for football, but it's and it's a very low tier conference for basketball. Only one team really gets it, and that not all the time you get like an automatic bid from those schools. So I think what they're trying to do is, you see in the Mountain West, you see 4 or 5 teams get automatic bids, regardless if they win their conference tournament, because of how strong that conference is. And I think that's their trajectory, is trying to get into the Mountain West as an option.
Yeah, I the whole Pac-12 thing, because they came up with the Sac-12 committee.
Right, exactly.
It's very, very ambitious. I applaud them for being that ambitious, but yeah, I think the Mountain West is a great the Big West. Like, that's another really good West Coast conference for sports. Like,
yeah, they're on the come up too.
If you're gonna make your football team independent, which is what it seems like they're gonna do, you have a lot of flexibility to go elsewhere with conferences that don't have football. So the WAC, the Big West, like, those are options as well. Yeah, they're doing it, man. They're going for it, and I respect them for it. I just hope that, like, financially they're able to sustain, because God, a lot of money goes into going FBS, and a lot of money goes into leaving a conference and then joining another conference. It's like, it's crazy how much money goes into this, and it's crazy how much these schools lose money to start out with. But if they turn themselves into a powerhouse in a couple of sports, then obviously things can change.
Yeah.
Hopefully the donors are committed.
Yeah.
Hopefully the donors keep
that's huge.
giving
I
donors.
think
I'd
that's
bet
huge.
about $20.
Sky River.
Oh yeah.
Sky River is their sugar daddy, man. Sky River is funding Sac State stuff. They're helping build the Republic Stadium too.
Damn.
In the rail yard.
they're
RT,
really-
you still have RT is a big gambler, and he hasn't made his way up to Sky River.
No,
Are you serious? If you're
so
gambling
close.
like that, then you should go to
Sky River's fun.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's-
saw recently that they actually had their slot machines powered down. Did you see that?
I
it was on like
see that.
916 today or
I think
something.
somebody posted about that.
I think it's because RT kept winning. RT kept
There's
winning
slots.
over
Yeah,
that.
I
something
think
like
someone
that.
won jackpot and they turned the power off,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Sorry, it's voided."
Yeah.
It was crazy.
See, yeah, once these next couple weeks like kind of simmer down, then yeah, you'll be seeing me at a local casino
Local
near
Sky
you.
River.
Yeah.
So
He's banned from 3 in the Sacramento area. He can't go to Capitol or Stones.
Dude.
He's banned.
So I have a friend, a great friend of mine. He actually used to live in this very room. Alec Edelmeyer. He is going to Sac State currently, and he was telling me that the buzz around, the whole athletic, all the athletics going up at Sac State is actually, they're increasing the tuition.
Yep.
And I heard that
Tuition's
there
a big
was
thing.
a walkout.
There was a walkout that was happening.
So can you break that down? Because RT also
Yeah,
attends Sac State.
I'm also a Sac State student. So
No, sorry, he's actually a Hornet.
well, that is true. I think what's really happening, and a lot of it is also CSUs are very well known for being a cheap option to go get a degree, get your college degree, get your 4 years done, right? And you can go anywhere, right? So I know Cristo, he went to CSU Fullerton. That's a very, very friendly state school. I got my master's at Sac State, coming from, and Johnny was also at Sac State too. So a lot of people, Andrew,
San Diego State.
in San Diego State. So
Yep, yeah, I was there in the 90s.
yeah,
Tuition was so cheap back then, bro. It was wild.
Yeah, it's wild.
He was Herky. He was
600
Herky the
bucks.
Hornet.
That's crazy.
But,
yeah,
he was the first Herky.
Yeah.
I was there when football was D2, bro.
But I think a lot of students that are in the student body are not fans of the CSUs raising their tuition, and
So they're not fans of sports.
Yeah,
Or
that's
Shaq.
kind of the big thing.
that is
Or
also a
Mike
big
Bibby.
thing too.
They're kind of indifferent towards athletics.
Yeah,
on
they're
campus,
in the middle. Yeah, and I credit Luke Wood, right? That's the president at Sac State that is making these big splashes. He's also a very young president too. So that is something that, he is very in tune with, is being that flashy school that has flashy athletics. I mean, you saw it with Mike Bibby getting hired and Shaq. The thing with Shaq though, it is a voluntary, non-paid position though, which does save you money on the books, but you still pay Mike Bibby to be your coach, and then you still have that football coach
and
too.
Then, and then both of their staffs, obviously.
Yeah, and the staffs too. So that's another thing as well. So I think the students are at a right as well to be upset with what's going on, because again, a lot of schools right now, and especially just how things are happening, its prices are going up, and so colleges
Session starting.
yeah, exactly. So I think students are very, very well deserved of just being like, hey, we're not fans of this tuition going up. We need to speak out and do something about it.
Did you walk out?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Because he's a sports fan.
Yeah,
Well, no, I
All bark
also.
and no bite.
Well, also, here's another thing though. In my defense, I also have a very busy life, so I
true.
couldn't walk
He
out.
does. He does.
He'll be sitting courtside at the basketball game.
Oh
with Sac
yeah,
State,
no,
so-
absolutely.
So he'll be all
I mean,
right.
the whole
Yep.
point of all these splash signings is to turn Sac State from a commuter school to a destination, right? And you
Yeah.
think that would help, the environment around Sac State, the economy, Sacramento's economy. So hopefully, we start to see the rewards, and the packed stadiums will come after that with the big names come in, and yeah, hopefully that quiets down the
little
riots.
bit of the noise.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but Nate Robinson put out a photo of Nate
Yeah,
Robinson, his
his
son,
son. Yeah.
and Mike Bibby. And Nate Robinson's son was wearing the Sac State uniform. So I don't know if I don't think that happened, but they're like, it could be in the works.
Nate
too.
Robinson as an assistant coach that'd be awesome.
You just,
That'd be
I think they
interesting.
already filled out the roster, right? The coaching.
Yeah,
staff?
the coaching staff has been settled at this point, but yeah, they got a lot of work to
They
do
still
filling
got
out
some,
the rest of the
with
roster.
transfer portal. So they still got to hit the portal
they
hard.
got a lot of work to do there.
and isn't Mike Bibby's son part
Mike
of the
Bibby's
coach?
son is the associate head coach, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is an interesting move. I mean, I don't want to say what I really think about some of those decisions that they made with the staff and stuff like that, because I know a lot of people are excited right now. I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but they made some interesting decisions where they probably could have pivoted elsewhere. All I know is I think they're just like, dude, we'll worry about that later. Right now, what really matters is we got these people in the door, and it's already making a really positive impact on the school's image and their recruiting. So
I think it's also you're trying to build that foundation, especially with you hiring new coaches. That has to be, and you're trying to make all these big deals to, like I said, get into the FBS, and that's a huge thing. You're trying to build the foundation and the layer of being like, hey, this is what's happening, and this is where we see ourselves in 5-10 years. So I don't blame Sac State for being in that place where they're trying to just have a stable floor
Right.
and then be able to just go for where they need to be. You'd rather have a stable floor than just have like an uncertain, destination of where you want to really go with it. So
if there is another walkout, will you participate?
I plead the fifth.
That's a smart.
I think the smart answer is the more stingers up, the better.
That is true.
sure.
That is true.
Okay, RT had a segment he wanted to do to end the podcast today.
And, I wanted to do this because I think this is a good topic. This is a very trendy topic right now. I think this would be very fun for us to clip this too because I think it's a really good opportunity for good reels and all that stuff. But the question I have for all of you today...
Is it the gorilla?
If Vivek Ranadive was able to clone himself 99 times and have 100 Vivek Ranadives, would those 100 Vivek Ranadives be able to beat a gorilla in a 100 versus 1?
No, I don't think so. I think the gorilla... Dude, it's actually shocking because he has such a youthful appearance and he's just like so high energy. But Vivek's like, I think he's almost 70 or is 70,
he's
which
getting,
is nuts.
He's getting up there.
He's getting up there, yeah.
I don't know. That's a lot of brain power, man. Like, I feel like he'd invent some tech thing on the spot.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, that's 100 tech... I don't know.
Yeah, tech guy brains.
Tech guy brains to defeat one. Like, I feel like he would create some AI or some robot.
He creates another logistics company.
Yeah.
I think if there were 98 Vivek Ranadives, one Nani Ranadive, and one Jeremy Lamb, they could do it.
Oh, see, here's my problem though, because I feel like with how the front office has been and him meddling in things, I feel like 100 Vivek Ranadives trying to meddle in each other's like business on how to to beat the gorilla. I just think
you wouldn't need the gorilla.
No, I just think they would just destroy it from themselves.
Yeah,
That's
like
true.
They would all turn on each other.
They would turn on each other. Yeah, they'd just be like turn heel.
100 Vivek Ranadives, that's pretty much the King's front office.
Dude, that essentially, and it's just like even like amongst the 100 Viveks, they would have to establish who the one leader is, and it's just like they're not even going to get that far. So.
It'd be like the Spider-Man meme.
It's like the 100 Viveks, and it's like 1, 2, 3.
It's like, no, you're running things.
No, I feel like though, just overall, if this just says anything, I feel like the gorilla would just 4-0 sweep.
Well,
Dude.
now I'm just picturing 100 Vivek Ranadives in my head, and I'm gonna have nightmares.
Yeah, dude, that's
just of him and his coif hair.
jump
just like-
scare.
You know what would have been
that's the jump
hilarious?
scare.
Imagine during COVID when they had the cardboard cutouts in the stands. It was all Vivek.
It was all Viveks.
It was all Vivek.
Or just every time that they like would do a free throw, they would just be like Vivek's tit talks and all that stuff. It's like
Oh,
him
that's what
dancing.
they should play.
Oh, see, yeah,
missing out.
yeah.
That's
so,
Drew's favorite
yeah.
video to post.
That also
the
is my
Vivek
favorite.
TikTok.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
my
my favorite
God,
video
dude.
too.
Yeah.
Listen, like that will just be forever a meme that I will just forever post whenever like things hit the fan. Like I'm just gonna just utilize the crap.
RT sends it to us a lot. He
Dude,
sends it a lot. And it just reminds us.
that video, that TikTok, and then the video of him in the war room the year that they drafted Stauskas.
Stauskas.
My two
Oh
favorite
my
videos of
God.
Just
all
two
time.
favorite videos. Yes,
Stauskas.
that's it. That
On
is
3, Nick rocks.
God, dude.
That was so bad.
So
I
cringe.
bet Nick
so
was so.
cringe.
He was like, "Oh, I'm going to a special home.
They love me here.
They're gonna put me on all the billboards in Sacramento."
Oh gosh,
That's
Have you
only-
guys seen the Sacramento movie yet?
Yes,
I have.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
great.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen
I haven't
it.
seen
You guys-
it either.
I
I
heard you guys tell us
I
about it.
personally like
It had more. It had a. Cause I thought it was just going to be like a buddy comedy kind of boring, but it had a really good plot. It was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
emotional. Great acting, and yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the plot,
you, yeah, I
the
heard it's
plot
great.
is
Thank
a
you.
lot more emotional, and you get so invested into it more than
And-
more than
and-
just a buddy comedy.
And I know for this generation, long movies are not the thing.
I love a good movie.
Okay, well, I know a lot of people. I know some people are just like, "Ugh, movies like an hour and 40." It's like it's only an hour and 45 minutes.
Sit down
this
and
movie's
enjoy.
this movie's like an hour 25, so
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah,
it's
it's
a short
quick.
one.
It's
Just,
quick.
you know, you show up, you get through it. It's a good watch for sure.
Yeah. I was really pleased with the plot because you can't really tell from the trailer. You know,
Oh,
they
no,
didn't
no.
give
Yeah, or
away
even
no
like the
leaks or
first
anything.
like 10-15 minutes of the movie, you have no idea where it's going, and
Right.
then all of a sudden,
Do
Yeah.
they show any Sacramento landmarks?
yeah, the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah,
What did they show?
that's the one.
Sacramento River.
That's the bridge out by Westside. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
but
Of course. Yeah, the one that you could see from Sutter Health Park.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, but the
Sacramento River was there, right?
Yeah, and then just like Midtown, downtown.
Okay.
Yeah,
did they go in like? Did they hop into Gunther's?
They were at a pool table at one point. Or
they
a
were.
pool
That
hall?
was a beer garden.
Was it?
Yeah, that was a beer garden on.
That's crazy.
Did they go to
Midtown.
Point Op too?
I don't.
It looked like they were doing the.
Well, no, because I saw there from like the trailer, they went to like the dive bar with the mermaid that was there.
Yeah, they went. Yeah, they went.
Yeah,
to
they went
they
there.
did?
Yeah. Because I remember from the trailer that was like a big thing, even though it was like a quick like 1 second in the trailer.
Yeah,
they had a
were
good
like,
night. Their first night in Sac was a good night.
Yeah,
for sure. They met
gotta
a
see
couple
it.
ladies.
Need to see
It was
it.
fun.
Oh,
They met a couple ladies.
Have you guys seen Sinners?
that's the
Yes.
other one I want to
haven't
see
seen
too.
Sinners.
That's the
I
other
need
one.
to
That
see
movie is phenomenal.
I heard it's like the
that movie's
greatest
so
movie.
good.
Like I need.
I
to
mean,
see
I don't
that.
want to like overhype anything, but word of mouth advertising is undefeated for a reason, and that movie, there's a reason why it spread like wildfire, like through word of mouth. Like that movie put so much money into their advertising campaign when they really didn't need to, because everybody's talking about it. So yeah, it's a
blew
great
up.
movie.
It blew, you just
it's a great
can't
movie.
not see it online.
Yeah, it'll get a couple Oscar noms. I would imagine. It's good. It's really
It was
good.
directed by
Ryan
Ryan
Coogler.
right?
Who?
He didn't go to Sac State, right?
Ryan Coogler went there.
Yeah,
he went to
okay,
Sac State.
okay.
He played
He
football
went to
at
Sac State?
Played
Sac
football at
State,
Sac State.
yeah.
Oh, dang.
I was thinking of
Yeah.
That's
Ryan
cool.
Coogler.
All right, well, I know what 2 movies I'm gonna watch next. Yeah.
Do you want to go together?
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible.
Inside Out.
The 100th X versus Gorilla.
Yeah, that's how you get your scouting report
Filled
on-
by Archie Clark.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm glad that we got together to do this. Hopefully there's going to be more. I mean, knowing Sacramento right now, we're the hottest city in the world. We got news breaking every day,
Dude.
so we'll be filling in the audience on
Michael Jordan's
on
about
our
to get the
thoughts.
head coaching job at ARC at this rate. It's bound to happen. It's bound to happen.
This place is on fire right now.
Yeah, it
Sac
is.
City's
And it's
got
only
Greg Popovich.
and like the and like the weather in Sacramento, we're only heating up.
Yeah,
so.
that's
We're
true.
heating up. You're
Yeah.
so
Shout out
right.
to State Fair.
But anyways, if you all enjoyed this and want to see more Kings content in the off season and more podcast episodes, subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram.
Follow the Drew.
Follow
the logo.
the local
guy.
guy. Man, number one, you should be following the local guy
Sorry,
on Twitter.
it's that
Join
one.
the spaces.
Don't make it a priority. It's
No, it is a
Low.
priority.
It is.
They definitely already follow him.
Yeah, I mean, if you, just subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok. We're going to be posting a lot of content. We got a lot of cool stuff lined up in the next couple weeks. So
We'll see you at Mojo's too.
yeah,
We'll
we're
see you at
very
Mojo's.
excited. Come out to Mojo's. We'll be making a post very, very soon with the date that's in line. And yeah, we got a lot of really cool things coming up in the off season, and I'm really excited for our off season to really take this to the moon. So we would love if you all would help us out getting up there. Subscribe, follow us, help us out, please.
Also, let us know where you'd like to see us record next, because we love, as much as we love Mojo's, we love giving the Sacramento community. We love meeting new people, meeting business owners. So let us know where you would want to see us record.
I want to record outside the Benzitos track.
Oh,
That'd be
sick.
cool.
That'd be sick.
We gotta have. I gotta reach out to him.
Yep. Next to Adam Struck and at the Alberto's on Fair Oaks too. Hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Is that still your bio?
Yeah. That's the location.
Dude,
Oh
what
my
if
gosh.
we sat down for the next episode with Drew at Arby's? We gotta make that happen.
Man, I don't know how my boss would feel about that, but maybe I'll ask him.
Yeah.
Put the fries in the bag. Put the fries in the bag, Drew.
$600 this year. I make more money than you.
All right, Drew. We'll see you same time tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate
See you on
you
the
guys,
shift.
man, as always.